Let's just start with this webinar, which we try to organize today, in particular to hear more from civil society actors, in particular also our colleagues and people we know in Ukraine. My name is Suzanne Hoff, and I'm the international coordinator of Strada International. And thank you very much for joining us all. As we said, we wanted to organize this webinar a little bit in a short moment, really see how we can, together with you all, support civil society actors. We will record this webinar, and please mute yourself. We will later share the recording or part of the recording via our website and also with those who are in this call. If you want to receive the recording, then please put your name in the chat. I presume just your email address and maybe send that to the folder who's hosting this. And then later on, we copy your contacts from the chat. Secondly, I would like to apologize already for maybe facing some technical difficulties today, as the persons we invited to speak here today, many of them are still in Ukraine in a very difficult situation, of course. We also expect some difficult internet connections, so we hope that all are able to speak. As we have invited quite some speakers, and there are also several of you online, I would like to ensure that you use the chat. Both questions you can use the chat, so we ensure that these can be answered, but also in case you want to share anything that you are maybe undertaken in relation to Ukraine, for example, actions of civil society or statements, do not hesitate to share that in the chat so everyone is also involved. Also, because I just finished actually a meeting with several networks, including Missing Children, Europe, PICOM, for example, and we also agreed that we would collect more information on what civil society is doing. Without much further ado, I would now like to introduce this webinar, which we organize in close consultation and also on request, as I said, from our Ukrainian colleagues. Several Ukrainians from Ukraine, they will be informing us today about the situation, but also about the other civil society actors and the support to those in need. And we also hope, of course, that this webinar will enhance this support and create more exchanges between the different people to generate more support. For those of you who do not know, Strada International is a European NGO platform against human trafficking. We have members in 24 European countries, including in Ukraine. We aim to prevent human trafficking and to protect and realize trafficked persons' rights, but we also try to support a much broader vulnerable group. And we will hear more about that today. As we know, the war continues, and over 1.5 million people, according to the last estimations, have been leaving Ukraine. And we, of course, all know that conflicts and war lead to increased risks of human trafficking violations and abuse. We also know that our members in different countries, and I've heard that already from many organizations, there's a lot of actions in other countries, in Poland, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia. So if you're from that country and you want to share something through the chat, or maybe have a question also how you can support more people from Ukraine, then also raise that. Let me, without much further ado, explain. We will focus not only on trafficked and exploited persons in this call. We mainly want to have a better picture of those working still in Ukraine. What's going on? How can we support them? What can we further do? And yeah, without further ado, I would like now to start with the very first speaker. And the very first speaker who's with us from Kyiv at the moment is Kateryna Levchenko. She is the founder of Strada Ukraine, and I've been working with her since 2002. Until 2018, she was the director of Strada Ukraine. She's currently government commissioner for gender equality policy and also the vice chair of the Gender Equality Commission of the Council of Europe. And before, she has also been a member of GRETA, the group of experts of the Council of Europe. Katya, we know you're welcome very much, and I'm very happy that you're willing to join us today, and you are also one of the persons who wanted us to join us today. Can you explain us a bit more about the situation in Kyiv and in Ukraine at the moment, and also what's happening and what you see in particular also related to the people that you have so much raised attention always for the vulnerable groups in Kyiv at the moment and in Ukraine. Go ahead, Katya.
Thank you, Susan. I'm in Kyiv, and my internet connection isn't stable, so I hope I will be able to present very shortly my not only vision but also my feeling of the situation in Ukraine. And as you know, on February 24th, Russian Federation started full-scale invasion and aggression against Ukraine. They started with bombing of a lot of Ukrainian cities and towns and villages, and they crossed border from territory of Russian Federation and also from territory of Republic of Belarus. Formally, Belarus considers that it is not in a situation of war with Ukraine, but in reality, all military bases in Belarus and a lot of Belarusian militaries use as a platform to attack Ukraine for the Russian airplanes, for Russian tanks, for Russian motor vehicles, etc. So, and since that day, we have been living in permanent bombing and shelling of Ukrainian cities and villages. And unfortunately, it's today we already have more than killed children, more than 40 killed children, and hundreds of civilians. I do not tell now about our defenders, both men and women. Today I had telephone calls with the leader of Ukrainian women veteran movement, Adriana, and she is in army at the moment, and she informed me that a lot of Ukrainian women who defended Ukraine who defended Ukraine
Susan, your microphone is off.
Thanks very much for informing me. Thanks, Naomi. I was just saying we were thinking that this could happen already because of the lack of electricity and other problems in Ukraine, in particular also Kyiv. Katya, Cherepakha, are you still with us? Can I give you the floor?
Yes, hi. Yes. Hello, hello, Susanna. Hello, colleagues. I'm very glad to see and to hear everybody. Sorry, I will be without the camera for the sake of the better connection. Yes, Kateryna Levchenko just started to describe the situation that we are having now, and I also have to admit that the situation is really changing almost every day, not on every day, but every hour and sometimes every minute. Speaking about the impact and speaking about the probably most of the vulnerable groups, and specifically this is women and children, who at this moment comprise the majority of those who are trying to escape the dangerous places and places that are under attack. We know that there are a lot of women and children and elderly people or people with disabilities are actually cut off from any infrastructure, from water, from electricity, from food. We know that there are places where they are in the basement and cannot go out, even if there is information where they are. But unfortunately, these places are not reachable due to the heavy bombing, heavy shooting and occupation. We know that there are places that already occupied by Russian troops and who do not let people go out or do not let to bring medicine or any type of humanitarian assistance. If to speak about what in our organization, I mean, specifically about Strada, Ukraine, unfortunately, the team has to leave the cities, the Kyiv, and at this moment we are in different places of Ukraine, mostly in Ukraine. Most of the team stays in Ukraine. We keep providing consultations at the both hotline. We have a national toll-free hotline on prevention, domestic violence, human trafficking, and gender discrimination, a national toll-free hotline for children and youth, but in online format, via the messengers. And we receive a lot of calls, a lot of requests, not calls, but messages to both of the hotline. Definitely, the majority of them dealing with the current situation. This is the war trauma, people asking about the possibilities, how to escape, how to save themselves, how to evacuate from the places under attack, how to process with children, with the small children, how it's possible to reach out to another places. With this respect, we also understand, and we know it and we see it, and we know from the statistic that there are more than 1 million of Ukrainians who left the country and is heading to other countries, to Poland, to Romania, to other countries. And we all know also from the colleagues, and we received the requests of information to the hotline about the risks, rather high risks of trafficking, ending up in the situation of trafficking under this situation, because mostly these are the women and children, very often even unaccompanied children who are living the country. As you might know, that men within the age 18-60 are not allowed to leave Ukraine at this moment due to the situation, because we need to them for protection. Thus, the women and children remain in very vulnerable situation, and we're completely aware that this situation can be used by traffickers and exploiters to put them in even more worse situation. What we also receive at the what kind of requests we receive, this is also the cases, unfortunately, also we receive the cases of sexual violence and specifically of rape from the territories occupied by Russian troops, from the side of Russians. Unfortunately, apart from providing psychological support in this situation, we are not really able to provide further assistance because these people are actually cut off. We also receive the information and some indications about the sexual violence and sexual harassments in the places where people are hiding, like basements or bomb shelters, because very often it's many times a day and at night. Some people are staying there for a long period of time, and specifically for women, for children as well. This is a very risky situation and very vulnerable situation. We also receive the information about about children crossing the border without accompanied, and actually almost with no document, and with very limited information about who is sending them, who is going to meet them, who is going to pick them up. And this category is also considered to be under the big risk of trafficking, exploitation, violence, and all these situations.
Thanks very much, Katya. Thanks also for stepping in. And I forgot to introduce you, but she is currently the director of Strada Ukraine. But that was because Katya Levchenko suddenly left. Maybe I get back to you for one more question, but thanks very much for explaining the situation and also what kind of requests you currently get. For those of you, just to know that Strada Ukraine was not running a shelter and trafficked and other exploited persons were not directly sheltered by them, but by other organizations. So if there's more information on that, we will also share. But let me go very quickly back to Kateryna Levchenko. Kateryna, you were cut off because you had problems.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, as I mentioned before, really, I have a very poor internet connection, and I just like to continue that really such a place and such cities like Kharkiv, Chernihiv, Irpin, Bucha, Akhtirka, Gostomel, Ivankiv. This list can be continued, but all these places are bombed day and night, and unfortunately, we do not have connections with some of these towns. And in Ivankiv, it's like 60 kilometers from Kyiv. We have humanitarian catastrophe because they're already the 10th days under Russians and without food, water, without connection and medicine. So, and of course, in such a very, very awful situation, we need support of all organization, all democratic countries, and not only like verbal support. It's not enough today. We really need more actions to support, to push your government to assist us to provide humanitarian assistance, both people who are in Ukraine and to Ukrainians who already crossed the border and at the moment stay in different European countries. I want to ask you to support thousands of Ukrainians refugees. Among those, majority are women and children, with respect of their dignity and their human rights, and to give not only to give them not only psychological, social, and like humanitarian assistance, but as well to empower them, because Ukrainian women are brave, active, and of course I hope they will continue their activity in your countries. And but at the moment they really need support. Also, what is very important is to fight with Russian propaganda and fake information, which very, very actively disseminate throughout different countries through Russian medias. And we know that there are a lot of fakes and a lot of manipulations, and it is a very strong weapon today. Tomorrow is 8th of March, the International Day of Women's Rights and Peace. And we ask you to organize action to support Ukraine and Ukrainian women. Please organize flash mob in social networks, demonstration. Please organize different events, photograph your action taken on this day of solidarity and post them on social media. I propose to launch tomorrow a day of empathy with Ukraine's women and children. We really need your support. And I will send to you information, or maybe Susanna, it will be better if you send, because you have better internet. We already developed such like announcement about this action. Please share it with your colleagues in different European and not only European countries, and be in solidarity with us tomorrow and not only tomorrow. And finally, I want to say that we really believe in our victory, and we as country which want to live to be free and to be European, we will continue our struggle and hope you will be at our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katja. I would also invite everyone, if you have specific questions to Katja or Katja, at the moment already raise them, because I can raise those questions still to them. I think we had a third speaker on our list. I haven't seen her now online, but I'm just trying. Miss Olena Shevchenko from the NGO Insight in Ukraine. Are you here? And if you are, can you take the floor?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. Welcome. We know that you work in Ukraine for an organization, as I just said, the NGO Insights, and you are the director of this NGO, which is also a human rights organization, and that you bring together lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people and queers. And maybe you can explain us a little bit more about the work of your organization, and also, of course, in the current situation. And feel, of course, free to share also other information you want. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hope that my internet connection also will allow me to speak, at least, not without video. Yeah, I just sorry because we are quite tired here with all which is happening around, and then also trying to work out somehow how to keep going and to support people. So yeah, you're completely right. I'm the chairperson of Inside Public Organization, which is basically works primarily with LD women and trans people, but of course we also do advocacy work for the whole LGBTQI spectrum. But in terms of the services, we are feminist organization, so our priority is always women. And I also represent or organizing committee of Women's March, which is, usually take place on the 8th of March. And this year it also was a huge preparation to that day, but, this war broke everything, unfortunately. What we are doing now, so we cover 11 regions of Ukraine as LGBTQI organization, and almost all our coordinators now are still on places, except such cities like Kramatorsk, because they've been evacuated due to very dangerous situation. And now we established 2 shelters, one in Lviv and another one in Chernivtsi, which is now kind of hub for those people who are escaping from the war and want to go further, in different other countries, or to stay there. So basically they are now overwhelmed totally, because we have like 12, 13 places in each, and it's already occupied. And there is a queue also of those people who are still trying to get there. On the first day of then it started, war, we also established for the Women's March as an organizing committee. A few people from the organizing committee established a chat bot with psychological support, and then we also added there another types of support, including money if some women need it. So it's more like general support to all women, especially those who are with children and in difficult circumstances now, trying to buy food or medicines or whatever, because honestly it's not pretty possible to escape from some cities because it's not safe. And oh my God, we know thousands stories now, which is coming to our chat bot, then people just asking to do at least something, to come there to their places, and for instance, to try to support them. For instance, the women with disabilities, those who can't even go out from the apartment. So it's not possible, I don't know, to evacuate them. So yeah, we are doing as much as we can, but it's obviously not pretty possible to help everybody. Yeah, so
Is there something that you need
is,
specific support with?
that's hard to say. I don't know, like that's I guess that this is a general issue and problem now, especially in terms of the relocation and evacuation of those people who are asking to help them. Because, for instance, in Kharkiv, this is a very, very dangerous situation, and it's not even possible to find somebody with the car who can go to some districts and to help people. And some people, of course, asking, very high prices. For instance, yesterday I tried to evacuate in Kyiv my parents from one bank to another. And this is just to give you an example. And the taxes said like 7,000 of hryvnias. And this is like crazy. I mean, Kharkiv, I remember the last thing I heard. Then the taxis asked 3,000 of hryvnias just, and you never know if they will come. They asking to send money first, and then yeah. So we are quite. I don't know how it can be solved because it's obviously it's not safe to go there. Yes, I understand that for those people who have cars or buses or whatever, but it needs to be done because it's obviously not enough. Those trains, which are of course are exist, but you can't even imagine what is happening on the train stations. That just fights between people and those who are stronger, like strong men. I saw it. They just come into the trains and pushing out women and children. Yeah.
Just for them, that's very awful to see that you also get those developments. Yeah, if you allow me, I will go to another person who's online at the moment, Marchenko. She works for the NGO Lada, an NGO working with children in Ukraine. Maybe Maryna, if you can take the floor and also say where you are at the moment and explain a little bit more what you are still doing.
Hello to everyone. Thank you very much. I'm now in Ukraine, and our organization gives support to women after childbirth. Now our organization consults pregnant women which give birth, and we support mothers. We post information on our social networks about childbirth and about postpartum recovery of women and how to carry for a child in this war. Our online consultants help to establish breastfeeding. Our psychologists who are safe now in safe places, they provide assistance to women. And I am also currently working on collecting the humanitarian needs of women and children. I see some similarities between them, and we understand what we can form a universal package for a family and for the city, how this universal package of help should look like. And we are very concerned about the condition of our mothers. They need physical and psychological support, a safe environment for childbirth. We need green corridors for them. We need to evacuate them to safe places to give this childbirth. And really, we understand that our women, they're heroes. They're very strong and brave, and Our organization in peacetime, we actualized the importance of postpartum support. We kept statistics, and we understood how many women have problems, have complications, and we can only imagine how the war increased these figures. So we today really need the support of other organizations, foreign and national. It is necessary to give information, ask for corridors, evacuate, create conditions for safe delivery, childbirth and recovery. We need to provide humanitarian assistance for our women and children, food, things, medicines. So we need to provide support for them. We believe really in our army, in our people, in our partners, but we understand that our women and children, they need support and help today. So I really believe that we can do our work well, job well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm checking also the chat. I haven't seen if there's a specific question already, but if you correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there is one. There is
Okay.
one from Jennifer Tunak from the European Freedom Network. Maybe she can ask the question herself. That might be nicest.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, friends. I was just looking for your top tips as people are fleeing right now or are staying in unsafe situations. How are you recommending that they protect themselves both from predators and traffickers?
Maybe Katja Cherepakha, can I give you the floor first?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Susanna. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, we definitely, all the basic recommendations that were, developed and were applied in the war time still remain to be actual. It's about the documents, keeping the documents. But definitely we know that now many of those recommendations can be problematic to, to realize, to fulfill. Because very often people are really like running in a minute with no possessions, with no goods, with no stuff, and have no really options how to to make preparatory stages, to check the information about the embassy or somebody who is inviting, or to get the information about the possible organizations that can assist. So definitely we also share the basic information, plus we also use the information that are generously were provided and translated in Ukrainian and Russian language by our colleagues from neighboring, specifically from the neighboring countries who are one of the main destination countries, like Poland, from Germany, from Moldova, from Romania, from Czech Republic, from Bulgaria. We also recommend to try to make a photo of the people or the cars that are proposing them, to get to the places, and try to send this information. But definitely, again, we understand that sometimes it's not realistic, because really people are running in the very deep psychological crisis situation. And but these basic things about the documents, about trying to check out who is trying to pick them up, definitely the information about the contacts that might be helpful in the countries. That's why we think that it's very important that at the borders this information should be available in most possible ways, like in Ukrainian language, specifically about risks and about the possible ways, channels, organization that can provide assistance in case of necessity. But we all completely realize that very often people just have choice and would not be able realistically to estimate any proposal that would come to them in under such situation.
Thank you, Katya. And then I go to
So Suzanne, can I continue? Yeah. Thank you for your question. And really, you cannot imagine the situation we have in Ukraine. 2 days ago, I had trip to Ukrainian Moldavian border and brought my daughter and her friends to secure a place in Moldova, and I saw thousands cars and buses, and with first of all with children, with families, and it's like a river, very big river of such cars. So, and the main fear was please not bomb us in this situation on the road. And at that moment, people really, of course, do not think about trafficking or other such things. It's only think how to survive, how to be live in this situation. And my daughter was crying for several days. I do not want to die. I am so young, and honestly, it's really very complicated to see what we have in Ukraine due to Russian invasion. But what is important, I saw on Moldovan side, there are a lot of volunteers, Moldovan volunteers, and I really thank very much to Moldova's civil society and Moldovan government for organizing very warm and hospital, very warm welcome to all Ukrainians who cross border, Ukrainian and Moldova border. And these volunteers should know, should have information about possible risks of trafficking. Information can be placed in a cafe where they provide free coffee, tea, and even lunch or breakfast. It depends on the time to Ukrainian refugees, which is really very important for people. That places are very appropriate place to disseminate information about possible risk of trafficking. When people already crossed the border, when they feel themselves in a secure, in safe situation, they can already percept information about trafficking or possible exploitation. So, and I consider that it's really very important to give such information to all volunteers, to border police, and other people who work at checkpoints at the moment. And we expect that this wave of refugees from different regions of Ukraine will continue due to continuation of shelling with missiles and bombs, civilian cities and villages in Ukraine. And what according to this, one more suggestion to Katya Cherepakha. I already know as well about cases of sexual harassment in metro, which is used as a shelter during bomb and air attacks. And I consider that it is very important to create such leaflets and put in all such places through Ukrainian police. And we can contact after this event and discuss how we can use such possibility.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks very much, Katya and Kateryna. And I also see already in the chat, we also hear from a lot of our colleagues also in Romania, and I just see in chat that they're also looking for experts to support them. There's a lot of requests also to the organizations in the other countries, like, for example, Strada Poland. And it's even quite difficult for them also to see where they can help, which requests they can support, which not. So we also try to be in contact, but we are, as I mentioned already, discussing with other networks also to seeing who's doing what, who's taking up what, so people can also refer to each other. I saw another request for the floor, and it's from Yevgenia. Yes, take the floor. Eugenia. Okay, I thought Yevgenia. Okay, Eugenia, go ahead. Apologies.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm Eugenia Benigni. I'm from Italy, and I've worked in Ukraine for more than 3 years with women's organizations, and I've worked also in Russia and about 20 years overall in the region, and I came back to Italy a couple of years ago. So first of all, I would like to say hello to Kateryna Levchenko and to Olena Shevchenko, and also to Kateryna Cherepakha. I want to express my deepest solidarity to all of you for this tragedy that is unfolding right now. And I just want to say quickly, I've started to mobilize after being literally paralyzed when this all started. I started to mobilize and to help crowdfunding and helping spread the word about crowdfunding for women, in particular for Olena Shevchenko's NGO Insight, and also for the Ukrainian the Urgent Action Fund for Women in Ukraine, and other sources that minimize administrative costs and make sure that the money goes directly to the hands and debit cards of women in the war zones and also escaping from the war zones. And I have a question related to this type of crowdfunding, but first I want to say something else, that since for me, Ukraine is my second motherland, and I have a lot of friends among women activists that I consider my sisters. I've tried in the past couple of weeks to evacuate some of them to here to Italy, and hopefully they will arrive in a few days, and I will host them. So I'm really looking forward to expand my family here. I also wanted to ask a few questions, which is the first one is to all of the Ukrainian organizations present today, which is in case of disruption of banks. Since we send money mostly to debit directly to women activists and LGBT activists debit cards, what is, I mean, is there something we can bypass the disruption of banks? That's my first question. And my second question is to Olena Shevchenko. Maybe you're working on this already, but I am very worried about our LGBT activist friends in Kharkiv, especially the organizers of the Kharkiv Pride, because as you know, they are sheltered in an apartment, and I try to contact them as often as I can, and they are in an appalling situation. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eugenia. Before answering the question, just to remind you that after this, we have more speakers from Ukraine online with us. So then we continue with Natalia Karbowska afterwards. But first, you had two questions. I think the first one was for Katya Cherepakha, and the second one was for Olena. So Katya, can I give you the floor first?
Just a second. So about the bank system, yeah. Well, at least from what we see now and from what we would know, I mean, the bank system is working for, but the problem is, one of the biggest problem is that it's difficult. I mean, and this is the situation in most of the cities, especially in those affected. So very often it's just not possible to take cash from the machines. I mean, from the card to take to withdraw money from the card, because actually there is no cash in the bankomats. And in some places it is problematic because they may accept only cash, I mean, if to make payments. And for some regions, specifically those who are cut off everything, where it's like a humanitarian catastrophe, it's even if you had a card, and if you have, for example, and if you even have money on that card, you just literally cannot buy anything because you are not able to do so. But again, so as mentioned, in general, the system is working. I mean, the bank system is working. Still, some regions can have different opportunities, I mean, different circumstances, and definitely the situation, as mentioned already, everything is so fragile. So we are not able to predict how it's going to be in upcoming, I don't know, days or period. if my colleagues from Ukraine can add something on or on this, just they can do it as well.
Okay. As for the second question, I'm sorry, we just have to wait a moment because one of the speakers who's supposed to speak has to leave. I give the floor now to Mariana Yevsyukova. Sorry, Mariana, if I don't pronounce your surname completely right. We know her for a long time. She used to work in Ekpat, but she's actually now in the United Arab Emirates, and she's leading the Ukrainian Women's Initiative. Mariana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry that I have to, pop up in the speech now, but I just want to tell that there are a lot of Ukrainians that are also outside the country and who are trapped in the situation, because here in United Arab Emirates we have more than 500 people who were just stuck here. They were on vacations, and when the war broke, they basically didn't have any chance to fly back home. So as for now, the situation is under the control, and they have accommodation and the meals with the help of the embassy, the Ukrainian community here. But a lot of people are puzzled. They don't know where they are going to go, what they are going to do. As for now, we have around 200 people who already left United Arab Emirates, mostly to Poland and to Romania. But then there is also another problem that we are seeing right now, that there are some people who don't have the biometric passport. They have the old standard of the passport, and they're buying the tickets with their last money, or the community are buying tickets for them. They are going through the check-in, and then they are denied the boarding. So they basically then are stuck at the airports, and they have to return back to the city and find the accommodation and everything. So they are going through, double trauma, not being able to get back home, not being able to go to the place where they will feel safe, and then this threat that they're experiencing right now. The situation in United Arab Emirates is not that easy in terms of political situation, because this is Arab country, Arab world, and there is different attitudes toward what's going on in Ukraine, in my home country. Unfortunately, there is a lot of false information in the media here, and activists and the embassy are fighting all the time, all the days, with all the media who are basically spreading the fake news that they're feeding from the Russian propaganda and from the Russian media. So there is a lot of work that we are doing right now, apart from helping the people, but community organized itself very well. So every family who is stuck here has the case manager, so dealing with all the requests and trying to help people to understand what they're going to do next. Because there is still we don't know the situation about the visas, because those Ukrainians who came here, they have the right to stay here only for 30 days. So we are waiting for the government for announcement how these visas could be either extended, what could be done. But even in the beginning of war, there was a very strange decision by the government of United Arab Emirates that they canceled the visa-free entry to United Arab Emirates. But then next day they got back to non-visa entry. But yes, there was, different kind of actions in the beginning. So far, the government is sending the humanitarian aid. Just this night, they sent 30 tons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine, also providing the monetary support. But it's hard for us also here, because we are not able to protest. It's banned according to the legislation here. Nobody without special permission have the right to protest. So for us, for Ukrainians who have families back home, who we worried, we're on the phone all the time, we are following the news. The only legal way to get together and show our solidarity, okay, not protest, but at least solidarity with our people, is together at a Ukrainian pavilion at the Expo 2020. You know, this is the only chance we have right now. And we are doing this regularly. So far, we already had 4 gatherings and we are trying to arrange more. But if you have seen the pavilion right now, people are coming, they're accused to enter our pavilion to share the message of support and solidarity. People are really concerned. We are taking this space to explain to people who don't understand the situation and still think that this is a conflict of Ukraine or a conflict in Ukraine, that this is a really full-scale war. But this is done very carefully because we understand the law and we understand that as soon as we violate at least one letter of this law, there could be problems for all Ukrainians who are here, who are residents and who are working here, and now they send in all their money to support Ukraine. I would also like to bring to your attention, especially my colleagues in Ukraine, that there are a lot of expats who are willing to help Ukraine, who are asking for the accounts, who are asking for the organizations who are really working on the field. Unfortunately, we cannot do the fundraising campaigns here. Again, it's not according to the law, it's banned. But if you share with me the contacts and then the bank details, I will make sure that at least I spread around those foreigners who are interested to help, because we constantly get the requests from the people, from the organizations. But it's very hard also because you know that the media is spreading different information. We have women here, activist women of Ukrainian Women's Initiative, who are basically all the time following the comments under the posts of the local media and reporting as a hate speech, trying to explain, trying to attract attention of the police here and cyber units, because this is probably, you know, some things that we can help with.
Sorry to interrupt, and I also know that you have to leave soon, but I also have another speaker, Anastasia Nenka, from the Women's Consultative Center in Ukraine at the moment, and she has also to leave any moment from now. So if I may, I would like to give her the floor at this moment in order for her also still to speak. Anastasia, can you hear us? Can you come forward?
Yes, thank you, Susanna. Good afternoon, everyone. Women's Information Consultative Center have 4 directions that we are actively working with during the war. The first one, establishment of a network of coordinators from among our activities in Ukraine who remain in places of permanent residence and continue to work there. The second one, dealing with the needs of girls and women with young children who are in shelters and have urgent needs that cannot be met due a lack of funds, access of availability in shops or pharmacies. The third one, posting on the site relevant information that people need during the war. It's a train schedule, list of official channels of information, list of instruction on how to act if one of the dangers occurs. All this information is on our website in the created section, the name war. And the first one, organization of volunteer work. What we see now, many activists have left their places of residence for various reasons. Among those who remained, the biggest problem, Kateryna Cherepakha also said about this, was the lack of communication and inability to communicate. For example, in Mariupol, the connection with our coordinator disappeared 2 days ago. In Berdyansk, yesterday at noon. In addition to communication problems, we have a global problem with the organization at all levels of aid delivery to such cities. There is no humanitarian corridor and all planned evacuation are either postponed or described by terrorist militants. Thirdly, we have an active network of coordinators located in Donetsk, Zaporizhia, 3 people, Poltava, Vinnytsia, Kyiv regions, and the Kyiv city. and more than 30 volunteers. About volunteers network, we work on following issues. The first one, collection, content, and validation of information on channels of assistance. It is food, medicine, hygiene, evacuation, information channels, assistance of psychotherapists, etc. The second one is collecting and organizing the local needs of those who approached us or our coordinators. Currently, such coverage is near 10,000 people in 5 regions and the Kyiv city. And the third one, we search for humanitarians to cover needs and pay for urgent needs for women with children. And now I should run because one of the bus from Italy with 8 are in Kyiv, and I should able to direct funds to support now. About recommendation, yes, I want to say that support those who remain on the permanent residence, because I think much work and assistance is directed to those who have already been evacuated, and less attention to those who remain and plan to remain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And apologies, I could not give you the floor early. I know you were very much in a rush to leave, but thanks very much for sharing your story and for your information. And we will include also share further information about your work. I'm looking now at who's still online, because I got a lot of names and people who wanted to speak, but I don't see them all online. Is Natalia Karbowska online?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello. So if to my knowledge, you're from the Ukrainian Women Fund. Could I give you the floor?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I represent Ukrainian Women's Fund. And also these days, you know, I should probably introduce myself not only as a Director on Strategic Development of the Ukrainian Women's Fund, but also as an internally displaced person. The title that I would never expected that I will use it for myself. I am among those who had to flee from Kyiv to save my family, to save my 86-year-old mother, and you know, the kids and my grandson. So I am now in the Western Ukraine, experiencing, you know, learning how to live in the new reality. And I would probably I want to share with you what I see here in my community where I live, and where there are, you know, hundreds of thousands of people like myself who are coming here. What I see here is that, of course, the tremendous mobilization of the local population, as well as those IDPs who came here. What I also see here, that all, you know, famous humanitarian donors who are supposed to be here in such communities, or at the places that Anastasia Nenka mentioned, you know, in Kyiv, Kharkiv, and other cities where the help and humanitarian aid is very much needed. There is nobody here. Nobody, believe me. All the humanitarian aid is basically coming from people like Mariana, Yevsyukova, like Eugenia Benini. She was telling about the experience in Italy. People, just citizens and activists from the other countries, from abroad. So this is the message, I would say, from me to international community. A question: where are humanitarian donors when they are needed? I understand that they have their own bureaucracies and policies and everything, and time is needed for them to, you know, to come here in these locations, but it might be, you know, late when they come. So this is my first message. Another message, another kind of part of the story that I see here in this community is that, and it is connected with economic reasons and with women being poor. Women also going abroad without any money and being under risks of, trafficking and all the other things. The same might happen here, because women, there are a lot of women here who are coming without any money and who are losing their job, of course, obviously, because, the infrastructure is not working. Local community is trying to establish some systems to either support existing businesses, to give them possibilities to hire IDPs, or do something else. So they are actively looking for models, maybe in the other countries, maybe other organizations have this experience, how to provide jobs for people who are temporary, we believe temporary, located in these little towns and villages in Western Ukraine. So this is something, the ideas, experience, and also funding to support these initiatives is very much needed now in Ukraine. And one more thing that I wanted to emphasize on is that unfortunately, this situation will continue. We will have more IDPs both in Ukraine, we will have refugees in the other countries until their, bombing of Ukraine continues. Therefore, we do need, as civil society, as activists, we need to be together with our sisters from the other countries, and we need to advocate, to keep pressure on the other countries, on the governments of the European countries and other countries, US and others, to continue pressure on Russia, to continue sanctions, to make them even harder, to close the sky over Ukraine. This is what Ukrainians are begging, basically. Everyone is begging to close the sky. If it is not possible, maybe to support Ukraine with the other measures so that we can protect our women and our children and our men as well, because otherwise the situation will unfortunately continue. And one more thing, the last point from me, I think Eugenia mentioned the fund to support Ukraine that is organized by the Urgent Action Fund together with Prospera, the international network of women's funds. And this fund is actually directed, Ukrainian Women's Fund is a member of Prospera. And this is, I think, the perfect example of the sisterhood, because Urgent Action Fund and Prospera are doing this on behalf of the Ukrainian Women's Fund. They are collecting the money to support Ukraine, to support also our sister funds from Poland, FEMT Fund, and from Bulgaria, Bulgarian Women's Fund, who are now providing support to Ukrainian refugees. Indeed, it is not secure and safe to keep the money in Ukraine now. So how we work with Prospera is basically they are collecting the money for us on their account, and they will be sending the money in small tranches so that Ukrainian Women's Fund could continue our program. Basically, from the first day of war, we launched rapid response grant making. We already received more than 38, I think, proposals and funded 12 of them. Proposals from women's rights organizations from different regions of Ukraine. They are receiving around $8,000 to basically to cover urgent needs of women who are in these locations. Of course, this is just a small program. We are continuing raising funds all together to support more women's groups, those who still have access to banks and can provide support to others. So any support is now very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And maybe you can also, in the link, you can maybe share some information or a link that we will also then refer to you, especially if you are collecting also money to support other organizations. So I think that's quite interesting. And also others, if you have crowdfunding actions, because we heard of many have already also other networks, then share them, and that can also be shared then others with other people. So we can help maybe to get more funding and humanitarian support also, as you said, to come to Ukraine. On my list, I still have 2 more speakers. I still would allow you also still to raise questions to the earlier speakers, then put it in the chat. I still know that we have still 1 remaining question not answered yet. But before we go there, I would like to go to Marta Kebalo. I'm not sure if she's here. She's of the World Federation of Ukrainian Women Organizations. Are you here? Anyone heard of her? No. Then I have also on my list still Miss Alexandra Farima. She's works for the Anti-Gender-Based Violence Commission in the Netherlands. Are you here with us? I do also not hear her. Maybe then I go back to the question that was raised earlier to Olena. Olena, I hope you still remember the question. I do not recall completely myself. Olena, can I give you the floor again?
Yeah, of course, I remember the question. I'm quite aware about the situation in Kharkiv.
Can you speak a little bit up, because sometimes your sound, I know you're in very difficult circumstances, but sometimes we cannot hear you very well.
Yeah, talking about Kharkiv, we are quite aware about the situation, and we are, at least on the Facebook, we are in contact with the mentioned activists from Pride, Kharkiv Pride. Yeah, as far as I know, they are still like living in the district where it's not like bombed everywhere, because there are other districts which was almost completely destroyed. So a few days ago, we just managed to evacuate few people from there. And it was like almost not possible. I don't know what to say. I know about the issue with cash. Because yes, that's almost impossible, at least in Kharkiv now, to pay by credit cards. Even in the big shops, which is still working, they all want cash, and it's not possible to get cash in the ATMs or bank machines. And this is like pretty similar situation with those cities which already have the same issues. So I expect that it will be the only possibility is to bring the humanitarian aid, including food and everything like that, in the nearest time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, and of course, we also see already that all the restrictions, of course, have also an impact. I already tried to transfer money to one colleague who's also here online from formerly Belarus, but it already came back. So we also see that the transfer restrictions and the restrictions, although very good to put the pressure, will also harm a lot of people, of course. Is there any question from the audience? Is there because you can also share, of course, I know that some of you are in the Czech Republic, in Romania, in Poland, also providing support to other organizations or to people directly. Any one of you who wants to take the floor, then please let me know. No, don't be shy. Katja, then I know for sure you would like to maybe say something further. Can I give you the floor again, Kateryna Levchenko?
Okay. So, hello.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, then I go to Lilena. Sorry, I didn't see your name completely because you started to speak already. Go ahead. Then Katja,
yes.
you go after.
So thank you very much for this just for this occasion to hear directly from our Ukrainian sisters. I'm speaking from Vilnius, Lithuania, and this was a very valuable information because our communities are mobilized very much to help, to assist refugees just coming to the border of Poland and bringing people, families, and providing them with just accommodation and all that needs. But at the same time, I hear...
Dzień dobry, Irena Dawid-Olczyk z Fundacji Strada.
Irena, can you mute? Sorry, go ahead.
So my organization is Vilnius Women's House. We assist people, just women on the problem of gender-based violence, all that. But what worried me just since the beginning of the war, that in Lithuania we hear about the weapons, about the combatants, about men, generally speaking, and so it was very important to hear what is the situation of the women. And yes, we would try to get tomorrow we have a big event organized by human rights organizations, women human rights defenders at the embassy of Ukraine in Vilnius. And I'm one of the speakers, and it's very important to remind our communities, our women, that women and children are suffering, and that patriarchy has its hand even in that situation. And it was very important to hear that we need to concentrate on the needs of vulnerable people, of women and children. And so thank you very much for that valuable information. From my side, we transfer money to those funds of women's organizations that are available, the information that is available to us. And we only hope that you get them and for your urgent needs. But at the same time, we are at the WAVE website, Vilnius Women's House. We are a focal point of violence against women, European Women Against Violence network. So if there are some specific, I don't know, women coming to Lithuania, or I don't know, something that we can be of help, please contact us, Vilnius Women's House, and we would try to do what we can. So thank you very much, our cordial support. And,
thank you.
And keep your struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. And can you maybe also put your name and maybe then your contact, your email address in the chat? So maybe if people want to reach out to you, they can. Then Kateryna Levchenko, I go back to you. And I see there's also a question of Naomi. So Naomi, you're next.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, colleagues, for expressing solidarity and support with Ukraine and with Ukrainian women and with Ukrainian men. And I would like to inform you that we have strong network of women NGO 1325, Women, Peace and Security. And last week already during the war, we had organized the meeting of this network to re-identify the priority for our activity. As government commissioner for gender equality policy, I'm have a very strong function to cooperate with non-governmental organizations, and that is why I really have regularly, not only regular contacts, but regular events and network and with different NGOs in Ukraine. So, and you can use this network for sharing information in different regions on Ukraine. And please, if you like to share something, you can contact me directly, or Natalia Karbowska, who is the director of Ukrainian Women Fund and who is one of the leading organizations in this network. So about women defenders, yes, it's a very important topic, and I mentioned already that we have very strong women veterans movement. In Ukrainian army, we have more than 37,000 women who serve in army, in National Guard, in police, in border police. So, and all these women are on front line today. And we really thank you for this initiative to speak on women who defend Ukraine, because as I mentioned in my first intervention, Ukrainian women strong and brave, and we really move further in gender equality, especially in security and defense sector. And now we have to really support them as well. And such support is important not only from within Ukraine, but from different countries as well. So, and finally, last thing, I'd like to remind one more time about this action for tomorrow, a day of empathy with Ukraine's women and children, for 8th of March, International Women's Rights Day. And we really want to see your solidarity in action And I hope that we will have like next meetings and we will speak about our common activity to support Ukraine, to rebuild Ukraine after this war. And victory to us, to Ukrainian people. And don't forget that this is war, not only war for Ukraine, this war for freedom, this war for Europe, this war for you as well.
Thank you very much, Katja, also for initiating this actually, and we're more than happy to organize another event online if there's a request. But let me go. I have three people who still had maybe questions. The first one is Naomi from our member Fizz. Naomi, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers for your time and the strength to share with us and provide such valuable information, especially in these times that are defined by so much horror and pain. Thank you for your activism and work under these circumstances that are so imaginable for us that have never suffered the consequences of war. As was mentioned previously, we see, as with every crisis or war, that the most vulnerable groups, such as women and children, suffer to the greatest extent. Here, I would like to pose a question I think that Eugenia has already referred to before, namely minorities such as LGBTQI persons who are under attack, or for me, the question arises also with the Russian invasion and occupation, what does this mean for for the rights of queer persons and for activists who fight for queer persons in the Ukraine, as well as LGBTQI persons living in the Ukraine at the moment. I do have another question that sort of goes or takes the perspective of another group of minorities that is at the moment read about in the European news, mainly students or people also working from other countries such as India, Latin America, African or Arab countries. We hear and read that often these persons are prevented from entering buses and trains, leaving the cities and villages under attack. So I'm not sure if any of you, the speakers that we've heard previously, do have specific information targeted to these two groups of persons that I've mentioned now, and what is happening to those groups of persons and how they are supported or where support is lacking. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Good to see you. Before I ask speakers to answer your question, I go to Rosa Logar. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Go ahead, Rosa.
Yeah, thank you. I also wanted to first thank you from Strada International and the organizers for organizing this webinar and giving us the opportunity to exchange. I'm based in Vienna, Austria. I'm working for the European network WAVE. We are a member of WAVE, but also of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the Austrian section. And we really want to continue this exchange and support also on the political level. And we're also part as well of the OSCE civic society platform for women, and maybe we can cooperate also in that sense with the sisters in the Ukraine and organize maybe also together a meeting or a conference. And so, yeah, thank you very much, and everything we can do in Austria, we'll try to do, and let's continue this so important exchange. And we send you a lot of strength, and we are so sorry about this horrible war and suffering that caused by patriarchy in the end and toxic masculinities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then we put also your contacts or the WAVE website maybe in the chat, and it's true. And
I did already.
Sorry, yeah. Then I missed it. And I'm happy we start to closer work with WAVE, which we should have done much earlier. So that's good. I have another. I see. Oh, I thought there was a hand also from another Naomi Bogley, if I'm correct. No.
No,
That's
but
me. I was just putting down my hand.
Okay,
my
yeah.
Okay, then the last one was Eugenia again. Go ahead.
Yes, Kateryna Levchenko already mentioned 1325, and I think we were all shocked to see the negotiating table completely male with the two sides and no third party at the negotiating table. So I think it's really important to push. I'm trying to do this a little bit behind closed doors with my previous contacts. But I don't know how far it will go. I think it's really, and we all understand this, that it's really important to push for 1325 and to include women from civil society from both sides to be listened to, and to nominate women negotiators from both sides, but women who are closely in contact with women from the civil society, grassroots women, and just ordinary women who are heavily impacted by the conflict, both inside Ukraine and outside among refugees in Europe and other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And this is something we fully support, to my knowledge. But Katya Levchenko, correct me if I'm wrong, Katya Levchenko was nominated for SIDA. And maybe this is also one push for all of us to support her strongly to be elected in June. So Katya, maybe that's also one thing we can do to support you. Let me see. Oh, I see there's one more question from Carmen Diaz. Carmen, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for all the participants for sharing. I'm very sorry, it's so hard, I cannot even imagine what you're going through. All my solidarity to all of you and your loved ones and all Ukrainians. I work with PICUM, and we are an organization working for the rights of undocumented people in Europe. And I just had a quick question, if you had any information, whether on people who are trying to flee Ukraine were asked for documentation at the border, if you had any information about that. And thank you for organizing this as well.
Thank you very much, Carmen. And I think your question relates very closely also to the question of Fizz, Naomi. Is there anyone who can answer these questions? Because we discussed it already also with PICUM, that we see people being discriminated also at the border, people of color, at the same time people who are undocumented. And I heard today, actually through PICUM, that there are estimations of 40,000 up to 50,000 people undocumented in Ukraine, which maybe have also more difficulties to leave. Is there anyone who can say something about this, whether people are stopped at border for whatever reasons?
Suzanne, may I continue with your Eugenia idea about women participation in peaceful negotiation? We already contacted people from Office of President of Ukraine and propose informally to include women in, at least women in such a delegation. And now situation really very complicated. We didn't receive like response, but we will continue these negotiations with our colleagues who work in the Office of President and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to promote this very important step, because we're absolutely aware that participation of women in such a peace dialogue, if I may call this dialogue peace, because it's not about peace, it's like ultimatum from Russian side, but nevertheless we know about necessity and importance of these things, and we'll continue our internal negotiation. If we survive in this war, we will have women in this dialogue. But for us, it's really the main to survive and to defend Ukraine.
Thank you, Katya. And it is confirmed, yeah, that you're still trying to be maybe elected for SIDA, if whatever, yeah.
Yes, it is confirmed. Thank you very much for this support, and I will think about new format of my promotion to SIDA, and I hope to receive support from countries of European Union, from other countries who support Ukraine, especially Ukraine in this moment, because it's not like about me, it's about Ukraine, and which is very important.
Okay, thank you. And maybe repeating also what Eugenia said, I'm sorry, really I have difficulties with your name, is that we can all, of course, if there are nominations, if there are elections everywhere, that I think it's very important now also that we're strong for that we support Ukrainian candidates, also symbolically now to be on their side. I know that there are a couple of questions, at least the last two, who have not been answered because no one could maybe react. Before I would like also still to close, we have 5 minutes left and then give the floor to my board colleague, Evelyn Probst. So just asking, is there anyone who still can answer the question of FIS and PICAM about people, undocumented people and people of color who have difficulties to leave Ukraine? Anyone knows anything about that? We hear it in the news that this is happening.
I just know that it is not necessary to have biometric passport at the moment to cross border with the EU countries, and it's quite a long procedure directly on the border, but it is possible to cross Ukrainian, like Polish or Ukrainian Slovak border without such necessary document. And we will, I will try to receive more information and to share with you about on situation with the people who do not have like all documents which were needed before to travel to European Union or Schengen zone countries.
If just to make a few add-ins from, at least from what we know, that definitely that at this moment the process of crossing the border is less bureaucratic in the context of less documents are required or less papers are required for those who are trying to flee from Ukraine to save their lives. But definitely, well, I do not have information about what is the situation with people who have no documents at all. Unfortunately, I cannot respond to that, and we don't have any cases, we don't have any information, but so I'm not able to recall on that. As for the people of other color or foreigners, from what we know, and well, we know it from the information in the media, from the information that we have and we see from our colleagues crossing the border or working at the border or this border. We know that the processes work, I mean, for foreigners, for people of different color. And we also know that this is also a part of, that manipulation and informational war that is used by Russian Federation to put Ukraine in a better light or in a bad light, that to manipulate and to bring, to claim that Ukraine is discriminating foreigners who try to flee. And this is also something that we know is like pushing in Western part, in the Western Europe, in other countries. Definitely we can imagine that there can be individual cases on the border checkpoint, but these cases, I believe, happening not only with people of other nationalities or other color or it's with any person, but this is also a part of the kind of the informational war against Ukraine from the side of the Russian Federation.
Thank you very much, Kateryna. I would like to echo everyone before I give the floor to Evelyn Probst that I already said, and I know we are running out of time, but Evelyn, you still get the floor. Thank you so much. I feel really sorry. It was so interesting to hear your stories, and I know that you're facing very, very strong challenges and big issues currently. And I feel even very sorry that I'm here in quiet Amsterdam and we just, life somehow still continues. We understand from you that we have to put pressure on European governments and international organizations. And we, of course, want to do this too, to stop this horrible war. And we heard from what we can still do, the calls for humanitarian support, more funding, and we will try to share the information that we shared today as much as possible to ensure that you get more support for your initiatives. I would now like to give the floor to Evelyn Probst. Evelyn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susanne. Thank you, Susanne, for hosting this event. Thank you, dear all our colleagues, especially Kateryna Levchenko and Kateryna Cherepakha, for being here with us and to giving us a little bit of a feeling that we can be active and that we can do something, because I think what helps us, this is what helps us the most. Additionally to that, what Susanne said and was summing up, I really would like to stress your initiative, Katya, to all of us who are going to the 8th of March demonstrations tomorrow, to hold up the shield that we as feminist women all over the world are there to support and to put now the focus on the women's rights, which are violated with this war, with this aggressive war, which is actually happening now in the Ukraine. And I think this is the first action, what we can do to make it visible to all these actions, what we already did, all our partner organizations. What Susanne promised is that she puts together the contacts, who is doing what, which network is doing what, that we don't use our time in overlapping with each other. And I think what she will take as a strong voice into was this demand on humanitarian aid should be there now, and not only, I don't know, when. I would like to add to this request of, we know that all the people who want to leave and who are able to leave the Ukraine are allowed by the Ukraine to leave beside men. And here, obviously, we have also the demand of, which was raised in the chat, that there's also specific discrimination for transgender people in the moment. We have to be here and to know whenever it happens that there's a Russian occupation, it will do harm to very many minorities where we in the last years and actually in the present are acting for. But we also have to see where we outside of the Ukraine have the responsibility. It was shared in the chat that since Friday last week, there's the European Union decision on having an easy access to residence inside the European Union for everybody who has an Ukraine passport, but as well there is the European Union decision that it's not the same for migrants who are leaving out of the Ukraine. And this is links up as well with the situation on the border. I would assume it's not the Ukraine who doesn't leave the people out, it's the Western Europe, it's the European countries who are not leaving the people in. So, and we have to focus on that, and we have to be aware of that we stand for non-discrimination for anybody in this situation. What I think what is also very important to raise again in that we are in a situation that you are internal displaced persons, and there's lots of needs of these communities who are supporting now that ones who have to escape of the violent situation. And we have on the longer term of a political field, it was raised that there is the OSCE where all of us are, some of us are included, and we can raise the voice again to put pressure. And on a little bit longer, so please, Katya, share your thoughts about the CEDAW committee. We are here to support you because I think this is symbolically very, very important. Not only symbolically, we know each other a very long time. I know that you're very forward activist on women's rights, and we need people like that in the CEDAW committee, but actually in the moment, it's even more important. What we all have heard is that we have to be aware of fake news, and there is a level of fake news which also is in the field of trafficking. We have to be aware of not to enter traps where trafficking is used for any other measures which are not necessary, but we have to be aware of that it's the responsibilities of the countries of destination of refugees to really take over the need on information and the need on support which women and children are having in the moment. And we also have heard a very urgent call for specific people in a vulnerable situation for humanitarian corridors. What we can do is to put pressure on our governments, that they really put pressure on that. And we can do it jointly, and I think we can do it with the message tomorrow on the 8th of March. Thank you so much. We will follow up with everything which was in the chat. We will share the information to everybody, and use please as well the platforms which are already existing. There's La Strada International, and a platform that's all the information about the organizations who are working in this field. And there's lots of joint activities where we can use the existing one for the present situation. See you soon.
Thank you all. Then we close here by this event. Keep in touch, and very good luck everyone there in Ukraine. We'll worry about you. Bye.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much for your support and for solidarity.
Thank you. Thank you. Stay safe.